처음 키토제닉 식단을 접해보면 어떻게 저렇게 먹고 살 수 있나 라는 생각이 절로 듭니다. 그리고 여기 그보다는 좀 만만한? 해볼만하다고 느낄 수 있는 저탄수화물 식단이 있습니다. 키토다이어트가 하루 탄수화물 섭취를 20에서 50g으로 제한하는 반면 저탄수화물 식단은 100g 내외의 탄수화물을 허용합니다. 이것은 밥 한 공기 반 정도에 해당하는 양입니다. 얼마 전 저는 저탄수화물 다이어트를 소개하는 댄매그 박사의 영상을 올려드렸는데요. 이번 영상에서 댄매그 박사는 식단을 실행하는 관점에서 두 가지 다이어트를 더욱 구체적으로 비교했습니다.
It would have been nice if there were some scientific studies to help answer this question, but no studies have been done that compare low-carb diets to ketogenic diets. Most of what I'm saying in this section of the video comes from my experience of helping people and the opinion of other health professionals that I work with. Now, it seems logical that with a ketogenic diet being a more restrictive diet, you would expect a more significant impact on weight loss. And that's certainly been my experience and that of my patients. But this doesn't necessarily mean that people need to be in ketosis to achieve weight loss. Some people see incredible results on a low carbohydrate diet without ever going to the extent of a ketogenic diet. And we know that even a moderate reduction in carbohydrate consumption can have fantastic metabolic benefits beyond weight loss. Others may find that a moderate low carb diet simply isn't enough to get them results. This is particularly true for people who have been overweight for a long period of time. What seems to be clear is that people who follow a ketogenic diet will lose weight at a faster rate than those on a more moderate low carb diet. Now, this rapid weight loss can provide a real psychological boost when you're just starting out. People who are seeing faster results tend to be more compliant. I'm getting great results, so I'm going to continue with this. Slow progress, on the other hand, can frustrate people to the point where they give up. Yes, in the first few days, the main initial burst of weight loss will be water weight, but it goes beyond this. Check out my weight loss graph from 2016. This is what happens in 6 months on a ketogenic diet. For me, it was the difference between being obese and being a normal weight. I'm not an isolated case. Rapid weight loss is possible, and I'm sure there are many people watching this who have had similar results. And I regularly have people losing 20 kilograms or more in just 8 weeks during the challenge I run. But faster isn't always better. We all know that sometimes slow and steady wins the race. Remember the hare and the tortoise? Yes, weight loss is likely to be slower on a low-carb diet than on a ketogenic diet, but if you're okay with that, then going slowly and steadily might just be for you. Importantly, you've always got the option of switching to a more restrictive ketogenic diet if you're finding it isn't giving you the desired results.
저는 요즘 키토 다이어트 커뮤니티를 자주 방문하며 사람들이 무엇을 궁금해하는지, 어떤 고민을 가지고 있는지 살펴보고 있습니다. 그중 많이 보이는 성향은 키토 다이어트라는 규칙에 지나치게 얽매이는 것이었습니다. 이것도 허용하면 안 되나요? 이 정도는 괜찮지 않을까요? 이런 분들께 저는 조금 더 유연하게 식단을 해나가라고 말씀드리고 싶습니다. 그 어떤 완벽한 다이어트도 지속하지 않으면 아무 소용 없으니까요. 지속 가능성과 엄격한 규칙 사이에서 적절한 밸런스를 찾아 나가는 것이 중요합니다. 따라서 저는 키토 다이어트를 시작하기 전 저탄수화물 식단으로 충분히 적응할 시간을 갖는 것을 추천드립니다.
Let's look at which is the easiest to do. As you probably guessed, ketogenic diets are more restrictive than low-carb diets. Does this make them harder to do or easier? Carbohydrates come from plants. The more strict we are with our carbohydrate restriction, the less fruit and vegetables we will be able to eat. To achieve ketosis, you must consume only limited quantities of lower carb fruits such as berries and only lower carb vegetables, typically those that grow above the ground. This can be restrictive for some people, too restrictive in fact. I have to be completely honest, a strict ketogenic diet is just too restrictive for some people. I've seen a number of people end up in this cycle of being very, very strict and then completely falling off the wagon, taking some months to get back on it. Others don't mind this restriction. In fact, having a smaller palette of ingredients or meals to choose from can actually make things easier. Have you ever sat down in a restaurant and been completely overwhelmed by the number of items on the menu to the point where it's hard to choose what you want to order? That's the paradox of choice. The more options we have, the harder it can be to make decisions. We bought a new bed recently. My wife and I went to a showroom and we picked the bed we wanted. We were then handed a big book full of all the different fabric options, a huge choice of different fabrics in every colour imaginable. It was overwhelming. So we left and ended up buying one from IKEA where there was only one option. blue. For others, variety is important and may increase enjoyment and sustainability by providing more flexibility. With a moderate low-carb diet, you can enjoy a wider variety of fruits and vegetables. But this slightly more relaxed low-carb approach doesn't mean you should start adding in poor quality refined carbs. Rather, we can add more fruits and vegetables and even limited amounts of nutrient-dense, higher carb vegetables such as sweet potatoes. When you compare this to the standard diet that most people eat, it still represents a significant improvement. And if this more moderate approach helps you achieve your personal goals, then great. Eating out is another consideration. Whilst it's entirely possible to remain on a strict ketogenic diet and still eat out, it makes things a little bit more complicated because irrespective of the restaurant, menus tend to be quite carb heavy. Being on a moderate low carb diet certainly makes this experience easier. Then there's the subject of fiber. Fiber is the cell walls of plants, which humans cannot digest. So the more you restrict carbohydrates, the harder it is to get fiber in. Lots of people are really big on getting enough fiber in their diets. I'm not overly convinced by it personally.
저는 처음 키토 다이어트를 할 때 허용하는 식품 안에서 다양성을 최대로 가져가고 싶었습니다. 그래서 제철 채소와 오일, 생선, 고기 등 평소에 잘 다루지 않던 식재료들까지 구입하며 다양하게 먹어보았습니다. 이 식단을 시작한 지 3년이 다 되어가는 지금은 야채 섭취를 대폭 줄였고 메인 메뉴인 단백질과 지방 섭취량은 늘렸습니다. 의도한 건 아니지만 조금씩 카니보어 식단에 가까워지고 있는 것 같네요. 이런 변화에는 몇 가지 이유가 있습니다. 먼저 식이섬유를 많이 섭취할수록 좋다는 초기의 인식이 조금은 바뀌었기 때문입니다. 이에 대해서는 차후 별도의 영상으로 따로 다뤄보도록 하겠습니다. 두 번째 이유는 식단에서 야채의 비중이 높고 메인이 되어야 할 단백질과 지방 섭취가 적다 보니 체중이 너무 많이 줄어들었기 때문입니다. 마지막은 편의성입니다. 메인 메뉴에만 집중하다 보니 준비 과정도 짧아지고 식사의 만족도도 올라갔습니다. 지금도 저는 다양한 음식을 먹으려고 하지만 매 끼니마다 꼭 여러 가지 식재료를 쓰지는 않습니다. 그래서 지금은 메인 음식의 비율을 90% 이상으로 가져가고 야채는 살짝 곁들이는 정도로 먹고 있습니다. 활동량이 많다 보니 단백질을 체중당 1.5g 이상 섭취하려고 합니다. 단백질을 많이 먹으려 하다 보니 지방 섭취량도 그만큼 늘었습니다. 이렇게 식단을 개선한 결과 전보다 에너지가 넘치고 근육량도 증가했습니다. 이것은 여러분께 드리는 작은 팁입니다. 키토 다이어트 초기에는 지방 섭취를 어떻게 늘려야 하는지, 뭘 먹어야 하는지 고민하는 분들이 많습니다. 이때 단백질과 지방을 구분하지 말고 동물성 음식으로 충분한 단백질을 먹는다면 지방 섭취도 자연스럽게 늘어나게 됩니다.
What about side effects? Well, a moderate low-carb diet is generally well tolerated and switching to it shouldn't cause you any side effects whatsoever. The same, however, is not true for ketogenic diets, especially when you suddenly change onto one. Because we see rapid improvements in the amount of insulin our bodies produce, our kidneys no longer need to hold on to so much fluid. Additionally, some salts are lost alongside that fluid, and on the positive side, people quickly look less bloated as that water weight is rapidly lost. But on the negative side, it can produce a collection of symptoms such as headaches, fatigue, changes in your bowel habit, sleep disturbances, and these are commonly known as keto flu. These symptoms shouldn't be a reason to avoid a ketogenic diet. They are to be expected as your body changes to a new fuel source that it's not used to. Some people advocate for slowly weaning off carbohydrates in order to minimize these symptoms, but it can be tricky to slowly wean yourself off carbohydrates, especially if you're a sugar addict. Personally, I recommend the cold turkey approach. After all, these symptoms can be avoided entirely or at least managed by ensuring you get plenty of fluids and electrolytes while you're transitioning. And it's essential for those who are on medication for type 2 diabetes, especially medication that lowers blood glucose, to consult their medical team when they switch to any low-carb diet. This is because a rapid improvement in blood glucose can end up causing people to be over-medicated. And the same is true for those on blood pressure medication.
키토플루 같은 부작용은 키토 다이어트를 할 때 반드시 거쳐야 할 관문이 아닙니다. 식단을 하며 불쾌한 경험은 가능한 한 겪지 않고 지나가는 것이 가장 좋다고 생각합니다. 부작용을 피해갈 수 있는 유일한 방법은 단계적 접근입니다. 이때 매 끼니마다 탄수화물을 조금씩 줄이는 것이 아니라 한 끼는 키토식, 한 끼는 일반식으로 구분해서 드시는 걸 추천드립니다. 이렇게 해야 적응 기간을 거치고 나서 탄수화물을 더 줄일 때 유리하고 대사적 유연성이 길러집니다. 저는 이렇게 점심 한 끼는 키토식을 하고 저녁은 일반식을 먹는 방식을 오랫동안 유지했습니다. 이렇게 하면 완전한 키토제닉 식단도 경험할 수 있고 하루 탄수화물 섭취량도 100g 이하로 어렵지 않게 조절할 수 있습니다. 저는 처음부터 전략적으로 이렇게 했던 건 아니지만 지금 와서 생각해보면 이런 접근법 덕에 키토 다이어트의 부작용을 겪지 않고 잘 지나갔던 것 같습니다.
Next, let's look at the effect on hunger. One of the most transformative things about going on any sort of low carbohydrate diet is the change in the experience of hunger. Here's another paradox for you. Why do people who are overweight feel hungry if they've got so much energy stored on their bodies as fat? Yet they do, and they feel hungry a lot. I know this from experience. Hunger ruled my days when I was obese. And there is this perception that people who are overweight or obese who keep eating are just being gluttonous, that they can't possibly be so hungry so frequently. Except this is not true. It's not gluttony at all. It's a sort of internal starvation. Let me explain. The stores of fat are there, but they're locked away because our bodies are swimming in insulin. Insulin is a fat storage hormone. Persistently raised levels of insulin are common in people with obesity, and they effectively stop us from burning fat as fuel. This creates a sort of internal starvation where we have the fat stores, but we can't access them. So we feel the need to keep eating in order to keep our energy levels up. When we switch to a low-carb diet, because of our low insulin levels, our fat stores can give up their energy between meals like they're supposed to. But it's not just insulin. Leptin is a hormone that's produced by our fat cells that is found to be lower in those on a low-carbohydrate diet, suggesting an improvement in sensitivity to this hormone. And ghrelin levels are significantly lower in those on low-carb diets too. Ghrelin is a hormone that's produced by our stomachs, which signals to our brains that we're hungry. So there's a significant advantage to being low carb when it comes to how hungry we feel. But being in ketosis takes this a step further. Not only do we have even better control of blood insulin levels, but ketones may actually inhibit appetite directly. People, therefore, who go on a ketogenic diet tend to feel even less hungry than those on a moderate low-carb diet. It's common for people to go from 3 meals a day plus snacks to 2 or even 1 meal a day without feeling significant hunger. It's entirely transformative to be free of something that has ruled your life for so long.
이런 이유 때문에 간헐적 단식과 저탄수화물 식단은 항상 세트처럼 따라다닙니다. 탄수화물을 줄이는 식단을 하면 배고픔과 포만감을 유발하는 호르몬들이 제 기능을 회복하기 때문에 두 가지를 함께 한다고 해서 더 힘들지는 않습니다. 오히려 둘 다 하는 것이 자연스러우며 그 효과도 극대화할 수 있습니다. 저희 채널에서는 배고픔과 간헐적 단식에 대해 자세히 설명한 여러 편의 영상이 있는데요. 이에 대해 더 자세히 알고 싶은 분들은 오른쪽 상단의 재생 목록을 눌러 관련 영상을 살펴보시기 바랍니다.
What about the safety of these diets? I don't see any real safety concerns when it comes to moderate low carbohydrate diets, but the ketogenic diet often has safety concerns leveled at it, in part due to the increased fat intake that you'll need to consume. But overall, I do think that a well-formulated ketogenic diet is generally safe for the majority of people. What about other benefits beyond weight loss? Most people will feel significantly better when switching from a standard Western diet high in processed carbs and seed oils to a low carbohydrate diet. But there are definite added benefits that come along with a ketogenic diet. Firstly, ketones are a fantastic source of fuel for your brain, and after a few days of being on a ketogenic diet, your brain mainly runs on ketones, and as a result, many people report significantly enhanced mental clarity. Blood glucose control may be better on a ketogenic diet and therefore may be better for those with diabetes. Ketones themselves are anti-inflammatory and may benefit those with chronic inflammatory disorders. I've had many clients report that their joint pains are significantly improved since going on a ketogenic diet. Combine that with the weight loss, I've had several clients who have cancelled the hip and knee replacements they had planned. There may also be a role for ketogenic diets in improving fertility, particularly in women with polycystic ovarian syndrome. And there are many potentially exciting areas of research relating to brain health. Ketogenic diets have been used to manage epilepsy for many years now, but there may also be a role for them in the prevention and treatment of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. There are also studies being done to examine how ketogenic diets can be used alongside other therapies to treat some cancers. So those are the major things we need to consider when trying to work out which is right for you. And much of it depends on where you're starting from, your health goals, and what type of person you are. Do you prefer to rip the plaster off, or do you like to peel it off slowly? Do you want to look through the swatch book and pick the best fabric for your bed, or will you choose the bed from IKEA? And I've made this sound like you have to choose one or the other. In reality, you can switch between the two as it suits you. But at the beginning of this, I said I'd tell you what the approach that I recommend to most people is. This is what I generally coach clients to do as part of the group coaching program that I run. I recommend that people start out on a strict ketogenic diet by following the tried and tested, well-formulated meal plans that we provide. We then coach them through how to minimize the side effects caused by the transition into ketosis. People then usually see really quick results, which, as I mentioned earlier, is very motivating. And then when their hunger starts to improve, we start to introduce intermittent fasting to accelerate the process even more. What I want is for my clients to really experience the power of a strict ketogenic diet, how incredibly effective it is both for weight loss and for completely transforming their experience of hunger. And then in week 8, the final week of the challenge, we discuss how to moderate diet from the perspective of sustainability. In the shorter term, some people choose to stay on a strict ketogenic diet. Some people choose to go more strict and even try carnivore for a bit. Others choose to go on a moderate low-carb diet. But in the medium to longer term, they have the knowledge and the skills to choose what the right diet for them is at any particular time. No two people are alike. Everyone starts from different points. Everyone has different ways in which they like to approach things. Ultimately, you've got to be willing to be your own experiment and find out what works for you.
댄 매그 박사와 달리 저는 엄격한 키토 다이어트보다는 저탄수화물 식단을 더 선호하는 편입니다. 제가 만약 코칭을 한다면 저는 단계를 더 세부적으로 쪼개서 진행할 것입니다. 간식 끊기, 밥 한 숟갈 덜어내기 같은 아주 작은 단계부터 시작하겠습니다. 저는 평생 지속할 수 있는 방법만이 의미가 있다고 생각합니다. 하지만 이 역시도 제가 생각하는 이상적인 방법이지 여러분에게 맞는 방법은 아닐 수 있습니다. 그러니 여러분도 자신의 성격과 심리적, 신체적 컨디션을 고려하며 자신에게 맞는 식단을 해나가시길 바랍니다. 마지막으로 여러분이 어떤 식단을 하든지 간에 무언가를 끊겠다는 생각은 하지 마세요. 그것은 애초에 불가능하며 억제된 욕구는 결국 안 좋은 방향으로 폭발하게 될 겁니다. 그 어떤 음식도 먹는 빈도수와 양만 조절한다면 여러분을 망치지 못합니다. 그러니 좋아하는 음식과 평생 이별해야 한다는 부담감을 덜어내시기 바랍니다. 매일 아이스크림을 한 통씩 먹는 건 심각한 문제가 될 수 있지만 그것을 한 달에 한두 번쯤 작은 컵에 덜어 먹는 것이 여러분의 몸에 큰 영향을 주진 않을 것입니다. 이상한 다이어트였습니다.